Alright, let's end the Feast trilogy with Feast 3, The Happy Finish. So, this movie came out a year after Part 2, and it is once again directed by John Gulager and written by Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan, who wrote the Saw movies after 4, 5, 6, and 7, The Collector, The Collection, and many other things, and the upcoming Final Destination, if we ever actually get it. I pray we do, because I love that franchise. And so, this movie the story picks up right after Part 2, just like Part 2 did with Part 1. They just have good continuity. They just keep picking up from like the minute the last movie did. It's like the Hatchet franchise. Just boom, boom, boom. The story just keeps going. And so yeah, let's get into, I'm not going to do a plot synopsis. It's about creatures attacking this town, and they got to try to survive the night. Boom, there's your story. Simple shit. So, positives. What do I like about this movie? I like that they brought back the title card sequences that they did in Part 1, where they say like their name, the job, and their life expectancy. I thought that stuff was really funny in the first one, so I'm glad they brought it back in this one, because they got rid of it for some reason in Part 2 and replaced it with this not funny, like, I don't know what to call it, like just flashbacks to their life, I guess. And I don't know, their biographies, like they just show footage of them from before, and what they replaced it with in Part 2 I wasn't a fan of. So I'm glad they brought the freeze frame stuff back in this one. And so I like that it picks up right after Part 2. I'm a continuity guy, so I like that. And we got Clu Gulager back, like his character, like him as an actor. And so I like, having the same actors playing the same characters, but still no Bozo from the first movie, and still no Harley Mom, as she was credited as. They have weird names in this franchise. Like, there's a guy in this movie, his name is Shit Kicker, and the guy named The Prophet, and the guy named Slasher. And I like that this one decided to pump the brakes a bit when it came to the CGI and the green screen and the fucking disgusting piss and shit and vomit humor that the second one did. Like, this one brought it back down closer to the style and tone of the first movie. Like, the monsters are more in the shadows in this one again. Not completely like Part 1. There's still a lot of daylight scenes in this movie, a lot of daytime shooting, but they go into tunnels, and I like that they're in the dark, creepy, like sewer tunnels, and the monsters look better in this one than they did in Part 2, because I guess it's lit darkly. It just feels closer to Part 1 that I like. I didn't like Part 2 that much, so I like that they kind of went closer to the humor and, the style of Part 1. It's not so, overboard with the disgusting humor. It's not as juvenile as Part 2. And the biggest thing that I like about this movie, the biggest thing that stands out about it, the thing that I will always remember about it, is the ending. That I won't spoil here. We'll save that for my spoiler discussion, but it's what it could make or break the movie. Who knows? Maybe some people will shit on that ending and be like, oh, fuck that. Where did that come from? It's just out of left field, which is what this whole franchise really is. This whole franchise, this trilogy, is all about subversion of expectations. It's all about doing the opposite of what you think they're going to do. And this ending is not what you would expect in a million years. They could ask you, how do you think this movie's going to end? You could write down a million guesses, and you would be wrong. All a million guesses. So I love the ending of this movie. And as for my negatives, I, once again, just like Part 1 and Part 2, I just don't like the camera work and the style of this film, like the editing. It's again very choppy. I don't like this style, and like especially when they go in like the underground rave party, like what the hell's going on down there? There's like a strobe light, like that whole scene, I couldn't tell what the fuck was happening. So yeah, and I don't like that scene at all either. Like, they insert like infected people. Like, now it's not a creature movie, it's like an infection zombie movie almost. So I didn't like that thing being added here. I guess they just threw it in to kind of freshen things up, because it's like, what are we gonna do with like the same movie 3 times in a row? Let's add this, and I didn't like it. Like, it should have just been the creatures again. You can do something else to make it different, but let's not change what kind of movie it is altogether. It's supposed to be a creature feature. It's about monsters, but now there's like this whole clan of people under the earth, like in the sewers, And this one could have used more gore. It's not really as bloody as the first one to me. There wasn't a whole lot of standout moments when it came to effects. The effects on the creatures is a little better than part two, but still very closer to part two than part one. The way the creatures look in this movie, they got like mohawks on their backs for some reason now. Uh, but yeah, like it could have used more gore, more on-screen kills. So final thoughts. This one was fine. It wasn't as boring as part two. It didn't really drag like that one. It's a lot shorter. It's only 80 minutes long, including the credits. So it's a very quick movie. It just gets going pretty quick. Um, it's somewhat enjoyable. It's not a shit fest. It's not so over the top, cringy like part two was to me. Not so much green screen and CGI. It wasn't as bad. So I enjoyed it more, probably because it was closer to part one when it came to like the tone of it. So if you like part one, I think you'll enjoy this one. Just not as much. So when it comes to Feast 3, I recommend maybe streaming it, borrowing it from a friend, or renting it at a Redbox. Spoilers! Let's talk about all the crazy, fucked up stuff that happens in this movie. First up, in the opening, finally, Honey Pie, she gets killed. She was so indestructible in part two, nothing could freaking keep her down. Not even a giant piece of whatever that went through her neck at the end of part two. You thought she was bleeding to death, but no, she just gets back up, starts walking, and then a creature cuts her head off and then eats her head and automatically, instantly shits it out. And we see a close-up shot of the creature's asshole as her severed head starts sliding on out with shit covered on it. It's disgusting. So like it's still got that shit and disgusting humor of part two, but it's much more less. It's dialed down. Like it was all through part two, but in this one it's just like here and there. It's not so much. Like after that, that's like probably the grossest thing in this movie is that. So we get a new character in this movie, a shit kicker, and his life expectancy is better than God. But then as soon as he shows this woman how to operate a handgun, how to put a bullet in the chamber, how to, take the safety on and off, he's giving her all the lessons, and he seems to be really close to her, like he's like attracted to her, like maybe you think they're gonna be together by the end, but no, like she shoots him right in the face. He puts the bullet in there, gives it to her. He's like, you know how to handle this? And she's like, yeah, I think I know. Shoots him right in the face. This guy whose life expectancy was supposed to be better than God is now dead because of his little lesson he gave her. Maybe he should have taught her how to not put your finger on the trigger unless you're planning on shooting somebody, and never point the gun at somebody unless you plan on shooting them. That's like the first lesson you're ever given when you take gun classes. That's like the first thing they tell you. Never point a gun, especially loaded, even if it's not loaded, because you never know. Never point a gun at someone unless you plan on killing them. So she should have kept that gun down. And then they tie rope to Slasher, the car salesman. Why? Like, so he couldn't run away, I guess? I don't know. Like, is it because it's like so dark in there he might not be able to find his way back to them? So they had like the line so he could follow it back. I don't know. Like, why did they tie him up? It doesn't matter. If I was just questioning that, maybe I missed a line of dialogue where they explained it. So you can't run away, motherfucker. We'll just pull you back. But can't he just take it off? Like, I don't get it. So yeah, I don't understand why Shit Kicker was there. Why did he stop at this town specifically? And we never really know. Maybe we do. Is it the whole world? Or is it just this city? I don't know. Like, that question's never really answered. If these creatures are killing every town, every state, every country, how far is this spreading, I like that the hobo, when he gets bit by the monster, he is just such a disgusting, smelly person that his flesh tastes worse than everyone else, and the monster just like is like, ugh, no, and wants to go eat somebody else instead. Goes after Slasher. He gets in this giant metal container that for some reason is in the middle of the street, and there's like a glory hole on the side, so he gets butt fucked by the monster and immediately is impregnated. Like, he starts growing a baby creature in his stomach and it bursts out of him. And we got a Slasher hybrid, like is like half Slasher, half the monster. And poor Tat Girl, the sexy like redheaded girl from part one or part two, whatever. She gets killed. That was very sad to see that beautiful lady go. And we meet the Prophet character, who's called the Prophet, and they think that he has some kind of power because every time the monsters are near him and them, like he can just be like, "Go away," and they listen. But later on, we find out that they're only going away because of his hearing aid that's going off. And so there's like this meth lab school bus underneath the ground, and they somehow, I might have missed something, but it looks like they just drove the school bus from underneath the ground through the ground. They just went through the dirt like the motorcycle in like Cemetery Man. Just poof. How did they pull that off? That was absurd. And so then this other character is introduced. His name is John Claude Segal, and he's like the ninja, or he's the martial artist or whatever. He's kicking ass. He's making like Bruce Lee noises and shit. And then ironically, he loses both of his arms like right away. And the moment that made me laugh the most, I love this scene when he is like trying to patch up his wound on his arm. Clu Gulager, he's like pouring gunpowder on it, and then he's about to like light it to help like stop the bleeding. And the guy's like, "Where'd you learn this from? World War II or whatever?" And he's like, "No, Rambo 3." And then he lights the gunpowder, and instead of like healing the wound, stopping the bleeding, it just blows his whole arm right off. So now he's got no arms, and they have to start climbing this ladder to escape, and he is the last one to go up. He's like at the back of the line, and then when it's his turn, he's like, "Oh shit, I got no arms." So he gets devoured. And the Clu is like, "Give me your hand." Oh, that's right, shit. And then like the pipehead guy, he's like feeling remorse for the dead baby. He's like, "I really miss that baby." And because he's got like the pipe in his jaw, he can't really speak coherently, so he's got subtitles every time he talks. And the chick who blew Shit Kicker's face off puts a bullet in the top of his pipe and then uses like a hammer, hits it, and it sends the bullet flying. I don't think that's possible, but now she like knows how guns work. She's like, "All right, just gotta put the bullet in the pipe, hit the back with a hammer, and now I'll send the bullet flying off." And then I love that they all just start eating the one monster, the slasher hybrid. They're just like, "Fuck it, we're gonna do what they're doing to us to them. Let's just start eating them." They just tackle the thing and they start like eating the face and the chest. I love that. I love that they all start fighting back finally, and the prophet gets killed. They're like, "You're a false prophet," because they realize it was just his hearing aid the whole time, keeping them at bay. And so then the biker queen, she gets puked on at one point, so then she rides off. "I'm already dead." So they strap the slasher hybrid monster to the back of her bike for some reason, and she's gonna drive it off. I don't get that. Why she has to carry that dead monster with her? I don't know. I mean, that's not the last monster. There's 1,000 more, I'm sure. And so she drives off, and then Clu Gulager, Lightning, the little guy who doesn't speak English, and then the other woman, the one who believes that if you just think of something and you wish for it and you pray for it hard enough, it will just happen. They're the last three survivors, and Clu Gulager turns to them and he's like, "Well, it's just us. We gotta repopulate the earth. You know what we gotta do? We gotta get fucking, like right now." And he starts like taking his shirt off.
"We gotta repopulate the earth. That's what we gotta do. We gotta start fucking. Right now."
And then boom, giant robot steps on the other two, squashes them to nothing. They're just a pile of organs on the ground, and the robot just keeps walking off. Like, what the fuck? And then Clu Gulager is just like baffled by it, like the audience. And then all of a sudden, like as if that wasn't crazy enough, we just see like a mariachi band playing their guitars. I think it's just one guy. It's just one guy with a guitar, some Mexican dude, playing the theme song to the movie in Spanish, Feast. Like, it has its own theme song, just singing about Feast as the credits start rolling. That's the end of the movie. So, yeah, pretty fucked up. out of left field, makes no sense, but the whole movie doesn't really make much sense, does it? So those are my thoughts on this crazy movie. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Did you like it more than part 2? Is it better than part 1 in your opinion? Let me know. As always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's just an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.